All right, welcome to another episode of the Leander Scoop podcast. And today I am here with Tanner O'Brien. And he owns, actually, what is the name of your coaching company? Why don't you introduce yourself instead of me doing a poor job at it, Tanner?
Well, I appreciate that. So name is Tanner O'Brien. I'm a senior partner and co-owner of ActionCoach here in Central Texas. So we are a business coaching firm. We are a franchise of the overall global enterprise, which is ActionCoach. But my family and I own the franchise here in Central Texas that serves Round Rock, Leander, Cedar Park, Georgetown, kind of all these areas here. And when I say family, I mean, both my parents are in the business. Okay. So if anyone's ever like, what's it like to work with family? I can tell you all the ins and outs, good things, bad things, all that fun stuff that comes along with it. But yeah, so it's ActionCoach Central Texas is the name of the business, and lots of fun with that.
Yeah, no, that's I think that's one of those businesses that isn't thought about very often by most people, and probably even the people who should, which are business owners, right? But the people who do think about this and who have one, it's like an absolute no-brainer. Like, what are you doing not having one? But I think a lot of business owners don't even they don't really know it's a thing, and even if they knew it was a thing, they don't know where to go or who or why. Do you experience that of people not understanding?
Yeah, a lot. It's always the interesting, dynamic between, if anyone's ever read the book Selling the Invisible, coaching is kind of that like invisible thing that's hard to sell because there isn't a tangible thing that comes along with it. So there's a lot of it like experiential things on, I didn't get it until I got into it. And it's really fun to kind of see the dynamic when we have, most of our clients tend to stay with us, 2 to 3 years on average, which is, a really long time for any type of coaching consulting type work. But it goes to show, exactly to that point, I don't know that I need it until I've experienced it. And then it's, insanely impactful within the business, staying power, value, impact in the community, all of those types of things. See that all the time and having some of those conversations.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about some like wins you've had maybe with some of the businesses in our area, or some great, maybe you can't give the specific name, but anything you can tell us about something that's gone really well that the business owner was stoked about that helped them a ton.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different stories that I can tell. We were just sitting in a meeting earlier today. Our leadership team was, and Coach Andy had just gotten some feedback from one of our clients that we'll see again on Monday, and they had what was the number? He had just said it, but they grew something like 20-30% in revenue just in the last quarter. Like really big increases in just a short period of time. And that's a local business here, right? A local kind of trades oriented business that serves this community specifically. And watching them to, continue to grow quarter over quarter, business systems getting better, profitability is getting better. Obviously revenue is going up as a part of that. There's so many things that business can do as a result, right? That's just one particular instance. Another one that pops to mind is, there's another local business here in the area, early on in their journey. And, when we started working, I don't know, 6-8 months ago, something like that. This business owner had literally like a negative balance in their account. Not just like negative profitability, but they were really struggling at this point. Really got after it, focused on what are the things that we can do and control within this next month, and turned around from like nothing in the account to having over $8,000 in the account the next month. And then that was kind of the catalyst to kind of move some things forward, keep the business in business, which I think is a really big piece. So those are just like some really simple examples. I mean, obviously we can get into more detail if it makes sense to, but all right here in our home community.
Yeah. No, that's because you only help people in basically the Austin area and primarily the northern Austin area, but you don't help people if someone called you from California or Minnesota. Like, you don't
primarily
help them. primarily.
Yeah, I mean, it's the caveat is we can coach anybody anywhere. That being said, our kind of target market is not outside this area. We are here to serve this particular area. If we're originally from North Iowa, so we've got a few local businesses up there that we do coach, but we're not out there trying to serve that market, right? That's just kind of a natural market that we've had in the past. But here specifically in Central Texas, this is where we focus. This is where we spend a lot of our time, and that's where the vast majority of our clients are.
That's where you live, obviously, right? So
Absolutely,
it makes it a lot easier. So what type of businesses are like ideal for you? Who should be calling you? Like, yeah, give me some background there so I can understand.
Yeah. I'll give you the answer that every marketing professional hates, which is everybody. I want everybody. Every business needs it. That being said, that's not really a fair answer to it. What we tend to see is it's the business owners that are feeling stuck. Now that may be I'm stuck in growing my business. It could be I'm stuck with time. Like as an owner, I feel like I'm doing everything. I'm wearing every single hat in the business, and I don't know how to get to that next level because I can't really delegate, or I've delegated in the past and it just didn't work out well. So if you think of kind of an emotional standpoint with some of these businesses, they may be earlier on in their journey. They may be a little bit further down the road in their journey, but it tends to be there's those friction points that just make the business owner go, man, it might be easier just to go get a job. That's when we really want to help them through that particular piece. Industry wise, there really isn't an industry that we're particularly good or not good with. If we took like a cross section of all the businesses that we worked with, you could probably name an industry and we've worked with them and had some success with them. And that's because we're not experts in any particular business. We're experts in the process of building business, which is the same, whether you're a dental office or you're, a marketing firm, or you're a, construction coordinator or, construction worker, that sort of thing. So when we look at it, the big thing is understanding what does the business need and how do we help them grow to that next level? How do we help them see the things that they can't see today, simply because they haven't done it before or they're just too close to it? That tends to be the best fit for us. And that, if you like painted a picture, it tends to be all of the kind of main street, small local businesses. So you're driving down, any of the streets here in Leander, and you look at, there's one of those local restaurants, local shops, things like that. Those are fantastic fits for a lot of what we do.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Would you say you just mentioned something that caught my ear of like, you're too close to it. How much would you say that what you deal with ends up being people problems, or, let me just say it this way, as a former business owner, where business owners maybe, don't fully, understand the way to manage their people and let's just say letting maybe people run over them, things like this. Is this something that you guys deal with a lot or see a lot and can help a lot with, where a business owner just can't solve that on their own because they're too in it, they're too close?
Yeah. Almost everything probably boils down to some level of people problem. And problem's not maybe the right word to use in every instance, but a constraint. And a lot of it is the constraint of the actual owner themselves, right? Early on, it's a mindset piece, it's a mental piece, I've never hired and truly managed a team before. I think of all the really small business owners around here that do everything themselves because they're sitting here going, I don't want to manage people. Like I'll just do it on my own. I don't want to manage people, but then they get stuck and they can't grow anymore. It's not helping the community and the people they want to serve, because they haven't learned that process of what's it actually like to manage people. And management is a skill like anything else. And, there's management and then there's leadership. Both are important, but both are different. And being able to understand, like, how do I make sure that the team doesn't, just run over me, or things actually get done. How do I know as the business owner that the things that I'm delegating out are actually getting done and getting done at the level that needs to be done? These are all the management systems that need to be put in. And then once they're in, we can then guide the team members along the way, help them continue to develop, help them run the business on our behalf, which is really kind of that next progression of building a business. So depending on where the business is and where the business owner is, could be a very team-oriented, people-related thing that we talk through, or it could be the bottleneck's really the owner themselves and the mindset and the fact that they just haven't graduated to that step within the business yet.
Totally. With this, it sounds like, do you see a lot of the, I remember the impactful book that a lot of people talk about that the business owners should read is the E-Myth Revisited, right? Which is like, too many business owners want to just do the work themselves. They're in the business and not actually working on the business. I know that that's pretty common, obviously, right? And that is where people like you and coaches can come in and help that person see the ability and how exactly to work on the business, because they don't know, right? They know how to bake the cake. They don't know how to run a bakery shop. Is that a good example in your case?
That's a really good example, and
it's from the book. I stole it from there. So.
Yes, yeah. And I'll paint to color that in a little bit. I think this is oftentimes the piece that's missed, especially in today's day and age. So the one thing I absolutely love about today's world is there's so much education out there for free. If you are a business owner and you just want to learn, well, I can learn the things to be an owner and not do the things in the business all the time. But that doesn't mean they're being applied effectively or at all. There's a big difference between applying the things in the actual business and what that business building process looks like. And it's not always the tactical, I understand logically how to do it. It's the emotional side of things. That emotional letting go is so much more of a factor than most business owners recognize. Making that transition to go, no, this is my baby. Like I love this. I can't give this up. I got to make the pies, or I got to make the cakes, right? Because they have to look and feel, and I have to put all of my heart and soul into that. When the reality is there's a whole other leverage piece on how many more people can you impact by doing that thing that you love, by helping your team learn how to do that, so that you don't have to be the one doing it all the time. And then of course that leads into, what's the value of the business down the line. If business owners want to retire, if they want to be able to do these types of things, then, that becomes a conversation we get even more in depth in, for staying power of the business and the brand and the things that they built.
Yeah, actually, let's talk about that, because I find this super interesting. In the very online business world that I do spend too much time on, on Twitter and these places where a lot of business people talk, there's, for the last 5 years or so now, it's been, I think that they use a term like the silver tsunami, right? Or like this, the boomer generation, they've been doing things traditionally, and then they're getting up in age, and it's okay. How are they going to exit the business? Because one of the things you hear a lot about online is, well, a lot of the kids don't want it, right? And anyway, so tell me about how much your experience with that, with people who are wanting, as you said, to exit their business, and how you help ideally get you the most money possible by creating a sellable business. Because we all know, I think this is one of the things most people don't know until they talk to people like you, is you may be making a decent amount of money yourself, but that doesn't mean that translates to somebody wanting to pay you a bunch of money to buy it. And people need to prepare for that. So how do you think about that?
Yeah. So it's a really important topic. And as you said, it's really important and timely now, because there are a lot of, you think of just driving through Leander, Round Rock, Georgetown, all these businesses that are out there, and how many of them are owned by the baby boomer generation? How many of them are ready for that next step, right? And it's so important from a community aspect to understand, what's the staying power of that business? If that business cannot be sold, or if it doesn't sell for what the business owner actually wants, that business may end up just being closed down and replaced. For me, that's something I hate seeing. I love local business, local community type stuff. So seeing, turnover of businesses is a pain. So when we look at these types of things, there's a number of factors to think about. But one of the big one is kind of what we talked about before. What is the owner's involvement in the business? If they are the key relationship, if they're the key, they're wearing the financial hat, they're wearing the operational hat, they're wearing the marketing hat, they're wearing all of these things in the business. and they're only paying themselves, way, way below what market rate would be for even just one of those roles, it becomes really difficult for an investor to come in and say, yeah, I want to buy this business, because there's no cash flow left.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an example. I was looking at a business a few weeks ago, and it was very similar to this. Like the owner is really the only one in the business, and they're not asking a whole lot for it. But when you take into the fact of consideration, like there's hours that have to be put in. Like if we're going to hire part time, if we're going to do anything for that, I have to put that in. Whether it's my time if I buy the business, or somebody else's time that's being put into the business. As soon as you cover that, profitability is gone.
Mm-hmm.
So now, for those that have not bought or sold a business before, most businesses are valued off of net income, a multiple of net income. I can get a little conflated, and there's some businesses that say, well, we can get a multiple of revenue. Oftentimes that comes more from the tech world, where software, things like that, where there really is, there's not a huge difference between revenue and profitability, just because there's so much margin there. In most brick and mortar businesses, it's very different. So net income is the number that we look at. So if there's no net income left, there's very little that an investor can come in and say, I can even get lending on this.
Mm-hmm.
So that becomes a really big friction point for a lot of these business owners that do want to sell, and then they can't sell it because it's just not valued at what they think it's worth. So maybe their retirement is built up in this, and they're like, I'm going to walk away with $500,000. That's going to be what it is. But the business is actually only worth 150. Like, well, I can't walk away for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have to make some really hard decisions as a result. So those are some of the factors. But yeah, owner's role within the company is a really big factor when it comes to a lot of these smaller businesses.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the answer to this potential problem and what business owners should be thinking about is getting in front of this, right? Don't wait till you're 6 months or 12 months from retiring. You need to get in front of this now. And again, coming back to what we said before, most business owners are probably not capable of figuring out and implementing and taking action on all the things you need to do to get your business in that shape in terms of processes, people in the right seats, organizational structure. And that's where you guys come in, right? If somebody comes to you and says, hey, I want to retire, I want to sell this thing in 5 years, there's probably a lot you can do to help them make that viable, I assume, right?
Yeah, especially with that much of a time frame, we can actually work on some of the stuff. Now, I'll throw this out there because I'm sure many listening that do own a small business, they may be going, whoa, Tanner, I don't want to exit my business. I love doing this stuff, and that's totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
When you build it as if you will exit it one day, because the reality is we're all going to exit our business one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
It's either our choice or not. It could be vertical or horizontal, but it's going to happen.
Yep.
Right. But when you choose to build it in that way, then you have flexibility.
That's
right. You have choice, right? I mean, as a small local business owner, if you had the choice to say, I want to take 2 weeks off and know that my business is going to be fine, I want to go spend time with the grandkids. Like, it gives you that flexibility anyway, even if you want to spend time doing it, right? And that's ultimately what we want to be able to do, is help you create the asset for the long-term wealth creation, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, your goals are your goals. And nobody gets to determine that. I don't get to tell you what that looks like, right? If your goal is to be able to give back to the community, if your goal is to make a whole bunch of money, if your goal is to exit one day, right? You get to choose what that is. How do we help you build the asset that gives you the choice to do the things that you want to do?
Yep. I think that makes so much sense. And also, what you think you want may change, right? And so you may say, now I'll do this till I die, that kind of thing. Well, something may happen, whether it's a physical thing. Maybe you're mostly fine, but your leg doesn't let you walk around the bakery as much. And and another thing, which I do want to get into, get your take on, at least at the high level. The world is changing faster than it ever has right now. And I don't see that slowing down. I think it's actually going to ramp up pretty significantly in 2020 through 2025, but especially 2026 might be the craziest year people have ever experienced in terms of things just changing. Right. And so whatever you are thinking now, it may be you may not have a choice. Things may be different in a couple of years. And so preparing for that and building that business that can stand on its own and not just you is just incredibly valuable. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me, just obviously I'm hinting at what's obviously a lot of people in the business world right now of AI, where, how you're talking to business owners about it, how you think they should be thinking about it. What's your as a business coach, what are you advising people related to AI? I know it can be dependent, obviously, on your industry.
Mhm.
If you're a dry cleaner, you probably not really much you need to deal with, but a lot of industries are going to have to adapt. So I'm curious what you're thinking about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think if there's one way to kind of sum it up is you got to learn it. You got to know it. You can't be afraid of it. Like it's not going away. It's only going to accelerate from here, and it's not necessarily something to be afraid of. It's just a tool for efficiency. I mean, it's a
That's
matter of
right.
like where can I plug it in? How can I use it? Not should I or should I not? And that tends to be the message that I have for many of our clients. And to your point, right, depending on the industry, depending on what they're doing, if they're heavily online, a lot of their delivery is digital, there's a lot more things that we can plug into versus if you're a dry cleaner, maybe there's a little bit less. But that doesn't mean that there aren't portions of the business that we can start looking at. How do we leverage this tool, right? Thinking of team members not doing everything in the business. Well, if we can start creating some systems and start leveraging AI for appointment setting, for reminders, for some basic, the whole voice AI thing that's starting to come out, sales agents, things like that, that's going to become so much stronger in the next couple of years. That if you can leverage that, I mean, that gives so much more power to the small businesses that wouldn't have had access to that technology in the past, right? They would have just had to go out and hire a whole bunch of team members, and that wouldn't have been cost effective because they're just not doing enough volume to be able to justify the expense. Whereas if you can tap into some of these AI tools and things like that, now you have access to things at a much higher level than you ever would have been able to have before. It creates efficiencies, creates better output. You can just do so much more and have so much more impact. So I think these are some of the ways that we're going to see businesses transform if they're willing to take the step and go, I can't be afraid of it. I need to learn the basics of it. I need to, have some people I can talk to about it, and just think about, how can I use it? I don't have to use it for everything. I don't have to be, the master at every component of it, but what parts can I use, and how can that help me in my day-to-day business? And how does that help me serve my customer base better?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, one of my pieces of advice to people is try to stop. One of the easiest switches to kind of get the hang of things is stop using Google and start using ChatGPT or Perplexity
Mm.
as kind of like a AI Google, and just do that first. Now, it doesn't work all the time. You may have to, probably for me, it's like 50% of the time I'm like, crap, Google's better. But the other 50%, when you see how good the output can be, it helps train your brain to try to go AI first. That's really
Yeah.
the big advice, is to try to think about AI first. And just for you to know too, and for the people listening, and this will be funny in the future, but for now, there's been two like game changing technologies released in the last 2 weeks, like things that will change how you do business. So one of them is called Sesame AI, which you should try this later, where it sounds like a real person. Like 100%, they have emotions, highs, lows, ask interesting questions. Like it's unbelievable. And then just 2 days ago, ChatGPT released a way, and this is relevant to the business owners, to make digital like images however you want via text, right? So you could type in, here's my product, I make shoes or whatever. Take a picture of your shoe and upload it and say, make this a really killer postcard advertising my shoes for $99 for, this holiday. And it'll make one that looks like you paid a designer $500 to do it. And like, what does that mean for the future of, I mean, it's that happened 3 days ago. It's crazy. So
Mm-hmm.
these things are just coming so quick. And I think business owners, you don't need to know everything right now. You don't need to be at the, like, understand every little thing, but you got to get started, right? Wouldn't that's kind of what you were saying, right? Is at least just get started, start learning a bit, and start moving forward with it.
Yeah, it's one of the coolest things I've noticed about how AI is being used currently is it's requiring us as like the users of it to become better question askers.
Yes.
Right? We
Right.
have to learn how to, prompt engineering, things like that is kind of the verbiage that's being used right now. But it's really no different than just saying, I need to critically think about how things connect together and ask a question that's going to get me the input or the output that I want. And the more we can do that, the crazier the stuff is that we're going to be able to tap into. I've noticed my skill set in different things go up dramatically simply because I'm having those conversations thinking, how do I think more critically about this situation? What questions have I not asked that I should be asking? And even asking, AI, what questions should I be asking?
No, that's
and have
actually
them
a
like go
great
through
question.
that.
So what you just said is so key. And First of all, I would totally agree with you in the way. Maybe a good word to think about what you just said is how to use AI and get better at AI is clarity of thought, clarity of asking questions. The better you are at asking questions or giving direction, the better your output. It could be 10x better, it could be 50x better because you gave it better directions. Or and then the other thing, like you said, which I love, is hey, tell me what I'm missing. Tell me how I could do better. Like it's actually really good at that, like shockingly good. I know a guy who is he's very high up. He's working with CEOs that people have heard of, like that big a deal. And this is all he teaches is like how to have better conversations with it, how to get it to ask you questions so that it can give you better outputs, right? So there's a lot there.
Yeah, and, let's bring this back to something that's like
Yeah.
super tangible for
Yeah.
business owners. Think about what we just talked about. It's question asking. It's how do we ask it questions so that we know what questions to ask and things like that. This is the process of training how to have team members.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
if you think about like where is the big gap that most business owners have when it comes to I hired a team member, I'm trying to delegate these things, I don't know how to do it. This is an easy training ground to figure out like what questions should I ask? How do I get comfortable having somebody else, AI or real person, be able to do things for me? How do I ask it questions and allow it to ask me questions so we can actually learn together? That's no different than what you should be doing with a lot of your team members. So it's a really fun way to kind of connect the dots on I'm stuck as a business owner because I've never been able to do these things before. Well, here's a tool that allows you to practice it in real time and then be able to leverage kind of both sides, actual real people and humans and the AI side of things as well.
Totally agree. Yeah, I tell you too. Think about AIs like it's an employee. Talk to it that way, right? Because it's very human because that's how it was trained, right? So you're right, and it won't you won't offend it in a way that it's gonna well, we won't get into what offended people do, but yes. So I think there's a lot of overlap there, and I think with AI specifically on top of, I mean, business coaches like for the right type of business owner and the right mindset and wanting to grow and all these things is so valuable. Like every successful business owner I know has a coach, like all of them, but with the advent of AI and how fast it's moving and how it can affect your entire business and things you can do, it's even more valuable to have someone like you to be able to help them navigate that, right? Because it's going to be so hard to navigate on your own. So you need help. So go to somebody like you who can not only help with that, but then all the traditional stuff too. Like,
yeah, 100%. There's, even in our world, right? There's gonna be a lot of things that AI can do that we also can do, right? I've had the thing in the past, like, why should I have a coach? I can just use AI for a lot of things. It's like, well, to some degree, sure.
In some sense.
But being able to connect the dots all the way across, and I'm talking the stuff that happens offline. I'm talking the stuff that you sit down at a table and realize I can't make payroll. I've got some other major thing that came up. There's the logical decisions and the things that you can talk through with an AI bot, and then there's here's the emotional way to actually navigate that with somebody who's been there, done that before.
Exactly.
It's a very different feeling. So it's a partnership between these tools that are out there and the professionals that are in our type of service and things like that. There's going to be a true pairing between the two of them. It's going to be maximum impact for the businesses.
Yeah, totally. I think the takeaway here, no matter what, is if you're a business owner, you should have a coach. Like you really should. I mean, think about it. Even the best have coaches, and the people at the lowest probably need it more. But even the best have it, right? Like LeBron James has a coach, right? Tiger Woods, they have coaches. Most of the really successful business owners, they have multiple coaches for different aspects, right? So clearly the point is the problem is that small business owners don't really think about this stuff because they're just not as exposed and they need to be. Because I remember when I started my business, I didn't really know about this either. And then I slowly learned more and more. And then I started following these guys in my space who were the big dogs, and they all had coaches. And then of course, guess what happened? They all became coaches, right? Which is obvious. But yeah,
it's a good note. And for the record, we are coaches and we have a coach that coaches us, right? We pay money to have a coach that coaches us because he's been, multiple years ahead of us, and we continue to grow just like everyone else. We believe in the same thing, right? I know Brad Sugars, founder of ActionCoach, multi-centimillionaire. has multiple coaches. And he's very, vocal about that, whether it's from, business side of things, mental side of things, mind, whatever it is, there's different aspects of it, because if you want to continue to level up and grow, having that accountability and having that what's right around the corner, it's important at every single stage.
And every aspect. I mean, I tell my wife this all the time. I'm like, God, we need to start making more money, because I literally want a gym coach. I want to help, like a nutritional coach, obviously a business entrepreneur coach. Like I want all this. I just can't afford it. But yeah. So I think if you want to get, the point is, if you want to get better, you need a coach, right? So the question is, if you're a business owner, do you want to get better? Do you want your business to be better? You need a coach, right? I mean, it's just as simple as that, because that's true in everything, not just business.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, hey, Tanner, anything I didn't ask you, or anything else you want to go over about what you guys do, or how business owners can get a hold of you?
Yeah. So I'll share a little bit about how folks can get a hold of us.
Yeah.
The one thing that I'll add, especially for a really community based podcast like this, if you are someone out there that's like, well, I'm doing my business because I love it. I alluded to, what is success for you? What does that look like? I've talked to many business owners that it's really about the community impact. How do I serve my customers more, right? Especially being here locally. How do we do more of that? If that is your goal, we can still build the business to be able to do that, right? Profitability helps fund those types of missions. And I think it's important not to be afraid of that. So depending on where you're at, some people are like, I want to make as much money as possible. Some people are like, I want to make as much impact as possible. And sometimes in the middle, the solution is virtually the same. And I just want to encourage not to be afraid of one end of the spectrum or another. In terms of getting a hold of us, there's a number of different ways. Encourage you to check us all out on all of our social profiles. ActionCoachCentralTX.com is the website. All of our social channels are ActionCoach Central TX, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, kind of all the major stuff there. Putting out lots of content on the YouTube channel, so definitely check that out. Otherwise, you can send us an email. Office at ActionCoachCentralTX.com is probably the easiest central way to get a hold of us. If you want to get a hold of me specifically, it's just Tanner O'Brien at ActionCoach.com. So a couple different ways, but yeah, reach out, and happy to start a conversation here if there's anything that makes sense for you. We know that coaching is not the right fit for everyone right away, so we're not going to push you into anything. Let's just have a chat. Where's your business at today? How can we help guide you in the best way that we can?
Nice. Yeah. People should at least take you up on that to really see if this is a fit. I think that makes a lot of sense. That's really good. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being here, Tanner. Really appreciate it. And we'll talk to you again later.
Sounds good. Thank you, buddy.
See ya.